fans, we'd like to welcome you to the fight capital of the world and today's official weigh-in for UFC Fight Night, Namajunas versus VanZant. Tomorrow night, we have got a huge main event in the strawweight division as former title challenger Rose Namajunas faces fellow contender Paige VanZant. In the co-main event, we've got a matchup of lightweight title hopefuls as New Jersey's Jim Miller takes on former Ultimate Fighter Live winner Michael Chiesa. And in a feature bout, we get our second look at the guy who is all the rage, Sage Northcutt, as he faces veteran Cody Pfister. We would like to thank our UFC sponsors, Bud Light, the perfect beer for whatever happens, and Metro PCS, where you can get unlimited data, talk, and text on the nationwide T-Mobile network for just $30 period. We would also like to send a special welcome to our UFC Fight Club members joining us today here in Las Vegas. We hope to see all of you right back here for the fights tomorrow night. And now, it's the official weigh-in for UFC Fight Night, Namajunas versus VanZant.
What is up, Las Vegas, Nevada? Thank you for coming to the official weigh-in. The Octagon girls, Chrissy and Vanessa. UFC President Dana White is in the building. One of the best talent relations men in the world, Sean Shelby right there. And the greatest living American, Brian Stan, is with us as well. We begin with the prelims. First up in the strawweight division, Kylan Curran versus Emily Kagan. First fighter to the scale, representing Bangor, Maine, Emily Kagan. And her opponent, please welcome Kylan Curran. $115 for Kylan Curran. Division, Subero Warrior Tahugov versus Felipe the Filipino Assassin Nobu. for Subera Tahuga. All right, our next fight is in the welterweight division. Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts versus Nathan Soul Force Coy. First fighter to the scale, making his UFC debut, Nathan Coy. $170 for Nathan Coy. And his opponent also making his UFC debut, Danny Roberts. $169.5 for Hot Chocolate. All right, staying in the welterweight division for this one, Santiago Genchiboa Ponzinibbio versus Andreas Real Steel Stahl. $171 for Andreas Stahl and his opponent Santiago Ponzinibbio. $170 for Ponzinibbio. Next up, we got a good one in the bantamweight division. Aljamain Funkmaster Sterling versus Johnny Eduardo. $135 for Johnny Eduardo. And his opponent, currently ranked number 5 in the world, Aljamain Sterling. $135 and a hook for Aljamain Sterling. Next up in the middleweight division, Antonio Cara de Zapat Carlos Jr. versus King Kevin Casey. $185 for Kevin Casey. And his opponent, please welcome Antonio Carlos Jr. $185 for Cara de Zapat. All right, our next prelim is in the welterweight division. Omari Wolverine Akhmedov versus Sergio the Panther Moraes. 171 for Sergio Moraes. And his opponent, Omari Akhmedov. $170 for Omari Akhmedov. And that brings us to our featured prelim also in the welterweight division. Tim the Dirty Bird Means versus John Doomsday Howard. $170 for John Howard. And his opponent, Tim the Dirty Bird Means. $170 for Tim Means. All right, that brings us to the main card. First up in the middleweight division, Elias the Spartan Theodoro versus Thiago Marreta Santos. $185 for Thiago Santos. And his opponent, please welcome Elias Theodoro. $185 for Elias Theodoro. next up in the lightweight division, Super Sage Northcutt versus Cody the Fist Fister. $156 for Cody Fister. And his opponent, please welcome Sage Northcutt. $155.5 for Sage Northcutt. And that brings us to the co-main event in the lightweight division. Jim Miller versus Michael Maverick Chiesa. $156 for Michael Chiesa. And his opponent making his 21st UFC appearance, Jim Miller. $155 and a hook for Jim Miller. All right, now time to take a closer look at the two fighters involved in tomorrow night's strawweight main event.
Paige VanZant versus Rose Namajunas should be a war. The two of them push a ferocious pace.
I'm excited for this matchup. You know, I definitely respect Rose as a fighter. I think it's going to be a great fight, and I think this could be fight of the night. Rose is well-rounded, but, you know, I'm ready for her as an opponent. I'm not going to underestimate her in any area. She's in for a fast-paced, very aggressive fight.
Armbar, spinning for the armbar. Beautiful jump. It's all over! Paige VanZant! By her training at Team Alpha Male, she's training with some of the best lighter weight men in the world today. And I think that has a huge effect on her ability to perform inside the octagon. She pushes a tremendous pace. She's very, very aggressive. And she wants to be a great, great fighter. But she has a big test in front of her with Rose Namajunas. Paige VanZant!
I'm the most technical in the division, so it's going to be really tough for her. No matter who I'm fighting, whether it's Paige or the champ or anybody in between, I just got to be myself.
Her victory highlight reel is a series of flying arm bars, wild striking technique. She is not a safety-first fighter by any stretch of the imagination. She is determined, and she is 100% bulldog.
She was very successful on The Ultimate Fighter. She made it to the finale, so of course I want to make another statement, beat another person that was on The Ultimate Fighter, and make my statement in the UFC.
It's very important to win decisively tonight. I've trained very hard for this. I feel like now's my time. I'm here to do my job, and that's just beat whoever's standing across from me.
Looking to finish this fight. She's in Rose. Namajunas.
With me and Rose, we're explosive fighters. We go out there for finishes. Obviously, I'm a fighter. I go out there to get the finish, and that's what I plan on doing.
First fighter to the scale, number 7 in the world, 12 gauge, Paige VanZant. $115.5 for Paige VanZant. And her opponent, number 3 in the world, the former world title challenger, Rose Namajunas. $115.5 for Rose Namajunas. All right, I'm here with Paige VanZant. Congratulations, your first UFC main event. How are you feeling in advance of your first UFC headliner tomorrow night?
I feel great. Still a little thirsty, but I feel good.
All right, congratulations. We'll see you tomorrow night. All right, Rose Namajunas, you have before fought for the UFC title. How has the build-up for this fight compared to that fight against Carla Esparza?
It's way different. You know, it's a new year, new me, so I'm just ready to roll.
We look forward to seeing you perform as always. Thank you very much, Rose Namajunas. Ladies and gentlemen, all right, thank you all so much for coming out. That makes it official. First fight, 3:45 local time tomorrow night.